This is a Global Tel-Link prepaid call from
Adnan Syed,
an inmate at a Maryland correctional facility.
Okay, hold up. That's actually not where it all started.
18-year-old Hae-Min Lee disappeared on January 13th after leaving Woodlawn High School.
A star student, stellar athlete, and scholastic achiever, Hae-Min Lee was on her way to the top.
She has so much of a future ahead of her.
There's no reason for this disappearance, and it's very troubling to the family, and we as investigators want to find her as soon as we can.
Police now reveal that 18-year-old Hae-Min Lee died of strangulation, and that they discovered her 1998 Nissan Sentra a short distance from where her killer attempted to bury her body in a shallow grave in Leakin Park. Key details they had withheld as they sought out a suspect. They now have one in custody.
He's identified as a 17-year-old Woodlawn student. His name is Adnan Syed.
When someone close to you dies, it hits you hard. You think, wow, that could be me someday.
Friends and relatives converge on the home of 17-year-old Adnan Syed. They can't believe the boy who had so much promise now faces a murder rap.
He was the best person. I could not imagine him doing anything like that.
They just looking for somebody to blame.
He cannot do it. He's such a nice, sweet child. He cannot do it.
He should get what he deserves for doing this. It will be difficult, but I will go on.
After more than 18 years behind bars, the men known as the West Memphis Three find that freedom has a bitter taste.
I had been following the West Memphis case for many years, but the night that I watched the documentary West of Memphis, I realized something had to be done. It was time to find a reporter who would figure out exactly what happened on January 13th, 1999.
From This American Life and WBEZ Chicago, it's Serial. One story told week by week. I'm Sarah Koenig.
For weeks I have felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up every time I heard that music. For Serial, the greatest podcast in the history of the medium. For 12 episodes, 1.5 million Americans, many of them on the cycle team, have combed through the evidence Sarah Koenig and her team lays out.
In the last couple of hours, it's gone to the #1 podcast in the UK.
This is now the most famous, arguably wrongly convicted, former 17-year-old in the history of the judicial system.
He's innocent, completely. I think he had nothing to do with it. I think he's not guilty. Shouldn't have been convicted.
I am absolutely obsessed with the new Serial podcast.
Yeah, man, I like it.
I'm like, every time a new episode comes out, I'm just like,
what are you doing? I was willing to have a conversation.
I love it so
You're
much.
steamroll.
And I'm so honored and pleased to get to present this award to Serial and Sarah Koenig. Thank you guys. Come over here, I think.
Hi, welcome and thanks for joining us on the very first episode of the new podcast, Undisclosed. We are not journalists or podcasters. We're 3 lawyers who are interested in the minute details of the case of the state versus Adnan Syed.
Undisclosed, the state versus Adnan Syed arrives today as a podcast. They said they were amateurs, and it shows in this. But right now, and I'm not trying to be cruel about this, it's deadly. I had to get through it as a critic, but it was work.
The first time I realized that Susan Simpson might be the person who actually solves what happened in this case was when I read a blog she wrote about Jay's police statements.
But again and again, the pattern held. Jay gets confused, pauses too long, or starts to say the wrong thing, and tap, tap, tap. And Jay knows the answer suddenly.
And we have proven, essentially, that the state's key witness in the case was coached by Baltimore City Police.
It's absolutely inconsistent with the validity evidence and undermines the state's entire theory of the case.
Hello there. My name's Bob Ruff, and I'm the host of the Truth and Justice podcast. We have developed an army of attorneys, police officers, prosecutors, judges, people of all different walks of life and all different skill sets from around the globe have all pitched in to continue these investigations.
Hello, everybody. This is Brendan Kenny, calling in from Minneapolis. I hope you enjoyed
undisclosed as much as I did.
We really thought it would be maybe a 1-hour radio show on NPR. We never had any idea it was going to be a podcast. We had no idea it was going to be a 12-part podcast. We had no idea how big it would get.
A major ruling from a Maryland court, and it effectively gives Adnan Syed, the convicted killer, a chance to call an alibi witness.
That Adnan Syed's supporters believe they have momentum after last week's ruling from the Court of Special Appeals that his appeal will be heard.
The podcast has had such tremendous effect on potentially reversing a murder conviction.
Ryan, you're a big fan of that podcast.
My wife and I listen to every episode. It's fascinating to see these new developments after the podcast concluded. It may be the case that she has to start that podcast back up again.
Today is day 2 of Adnan's post-conviction relief hearing.
Hi guys, day 4, Monday of the PCR hearing. I have had no donuts today. That's probably the issue. Had more of those.
We are now happy to be part of the Free Adnan team.
Adnan Syed.
Adnan Syed.
Adnan Syed.
Adnan Syed.
Adnan Syed.
They're Adnan.
Free Adnan.